Welcome to Joy in the City True Stories Edition. I'm Bethany Marshall, and you're about to see what God is doing in our city. Coming up, we spend some time with the leadership and cast of The Ark, the current production from the Iron Bridge Dinner Theater.
The Ark that we're opening here this spring, we are excited to offer a biblical show with message of hope, restoration, and encouragement to our audiences.
All that and more coming up now on Joy in the City True Stories.
God is on the move, on the move, hallelujah. God is on the move in many mighty ways. God is on the move, hallelujah. God is on the move today.
Today we talk with the leadership and cast from the Iron Bridge Dinner Theater, Central Pennsylvania's only dinner theater offering family-friendly, wholesome productions including musicals, comedies, murder mysteries, drama, children's theater, and more. Recently, Troy Ferguson spent the morning with Drew Baker and the cast of The Ark.
Before we get into the show, tell me a little bit about how you got here.
Well, in 2000, fall of 2000, I felt compelled to start what was then Noah Lot Productions for just one show. It was friends of mine, 6 of us. We got together, did a Christmas show, and toured to various churches in the central Pennsylvania area. It was successful, much to our surprise, and so we decided then to write an Easter production entitled Through the Years. And at that point, we toured again to, I believe, 8 different churches that year. With the Easter production, and basically that kick-started what was then known as Faces and Places Ministries. And for, maybe a good solid 4 years, we toured with that same production, and then wrote another production entitled Thy Kingdom Come, which was a big hit here in central Pennsylvania over the Easter holiday. And we sprinkled in a couple other shows, if you will, throughout the year, but mainly our focus was the Easter production of Thy Kingdom Come. And that lasted until 2006. We did our last production of that. That led us into a brand new Christmas production entitled The Journey, that then was much like the others, but we set down roots at a church here in Tyrone for both the last year of Thy Kingdom Come and The Journey. And then from there, we began venturing out into other family-friendly oriented productions that we could still kind of minister to our audiences through, but yet were recognizable titles. So we were taking recognizable titles such as Steel Magnolias and other productions that had name value and pulling a gospel message from them, just even whether it was in my director's letter or in a voiceover at the beginning or the end of the show. And we were hoping to minister to a different demographic that way. In 2013, we were blessed to partner with Edgewater Acres in Alexandria, Pennsylvania, and started what was then full-time dinner theater for central Pennsylvania audiences. And the focus was still the same. We were still going into churches, still going into civic organizations, schools, and presenting various messages through story of and musicals, through plays and dramas and that sort of thing. But then in 2013, we were able to set down roots. After the scenery, the costumes, the cast got too large, and we got too tired of traveling, it was time to set down roots. So the mission never changed. We still offered family-friendly, wholesome shows and tried to minister through that. And that lasted for 2 years at Edgewater Acres. And in 2015, August, we were fortunate enough to open the doors to the Iron Bridge Dinner Theater, which is apropos to the name because we're right beside the Iron Bridge. And our mission is still the same. Our mission hasn't changed. We have actors that come in now from all over the country, as well as local actors. And our focus is still the same, to present family-friendly, wholesome shows. And like The Ark that we're opening here this spring, we are excited to offer a biblical show with message of hope, restoration, and encouragement to our audiences, interspersed with the other comedies that we offer throughout the year. And it's really been interesting because we've been able to minister to the actors that we bring in too. It's kind of been a hidden ministry, if you will, that we've been able to share with them as well.
Cool. Where did you get your interest? Any idea of where your desire, your passion for drama, for theater
I can only say it's inbred in me from the Lord. I mean, it's a gift because from the time I was 4 years old until now, it's just kind of been part of my life. I was in my first production when I was 4, doing regional theater, community theater up through high school, and then I worked at Sight and Sound Theaters in Lancaster right out of high school, and then feeling called to come back here and start the company that has kind of gone through 3 different transitions that puts us where we are now. But I don't know a time where I was never interested in performing in the arts, and I think it's a great tool in our society today to be able to minister and bring the gospel to life, whether it's in relevant pictures of a modern day form or whether it's in something of a biblical nature.
How do you go about getting your cast, your stories? How do you determine here's what we're going to do and here's what I need, and where do you get the people from?
That's interesting that you ask that because I just had this conversation at lunch with someone yesterday. We've been so blessed with the people that we've come into contact with and been able to hire and to work with along the way that I've never had major issues at all. It's just been the people have been provided. Even when it comes down to we open next week and still don't have this role filled, who do we get? And the phone rings or a lead comes in and we're able to follow it and it's the right fit. So the Lord's always provided that for us, and it's always been a special blessing to fret a little bit, but also see how he's going to follow through. We've had several instances just here since we opened the Iron Bridge that has happened, and each time it's been a perfect fit that we've seen. As far as picking the material, it's long hours combing through the internet and combing through shows and combing through submissions that people send us of their scripts that they want produced. And we're now part of the National Dinner Theater Association here, which kind of opens up a whole new world of contact with actors and with play submissions and musical submissions. We're working with a couple companies right now, newer licensing agencies that have been most gracious to give us new material to present here. And in our first year and a half open here, we've had 3 different authors of productions that we've produced here come and see a production here, which has been frightening but also exciting at the same time. Not many theaters can boast that.
Now that we're here at the Iron Bridge Dinner Theater, and as we can see, this is a beautiful facility. And how often are you doing a show? And what's the process that someone would, if they would want to see a show, where can they find out information about that, and how often are you doing that?
Yeah, our typical show season, opening in 2015, we opened in August of 2015. So our show season runs basically September now to August. So our big season opener is right after Labor Day. We run a show anywhere, depending on the show and the time of year. A show will run for 3 weeks to 6 weeks, and anywhere in between there, 3, 4, 5 weeks, 6-week runs. Some of the shows that we know are going to be more popular will have a longer run. With other shows, we wouldn't just throw into a vacant spot there, but we boast a 10-show season, and typically we have about 2 weeks off in between each production. So we'll run a show for, average of 4 weeks, and then have 2 weeks off to rehearse the next production, and then open it up again and turn this place around. So it's a big, busy 2 weeks in those time periods, but the 10 shows keep us stepping. But it also gives our Central Pennsylvania audiences an opportunity to see something almost monthly and have a fun experience on a monthly basis.
And how many days a week are that when you're in your season? How many days a week times are your shows?
It depends on the time of year, but now we're entering into the time. We just came out of our winter season, which we are open Thursdays through Sundays. Now we're open Wednesdays through Sundays. Wednesday and Thursday are matinees at 12:30. And then Friday, Saturday, we have 6:30 evening performances, and Sunday's a twilight performance, which starts at 4 o'clock. So dinner starts at those times, and then the show follows. Sometimes the show will start, an hour after dinner, or an hour and a half, depends on how the people are cleaning up and how the buffet area is dying down and that sort of thing. But the shows then we typically run are 90 minutes to an hour and 20 minutes. Try to keep them in a shortened version so that it's not too long of a night, but it's most enjoyable.
Sure. Mm-hmm. And being that, explain what is a dinner theater compared to a typical theatrical play or musical. What's different about this?
It's an experience. Okay, so what we're offering here and what we're selling here is an experience, a memory, and memories that are to be made with your family, friends, whatever. So you come in here, and the whole atmosphere, envelops you into the show. The meal is catered to the show. We have our own in-house chef, but we tailor the meal kind of in connection with the show and maybe stuff that's mentioned in the show. So you are part of the show from the minute you step in the door. And the overall experience for a dinner theater, I think, is savings. For one thing, you go to a regular show, you're going out to dinner beforehand anyhow, so why not have the entire package, and you have the opportunity for a nice night out. You get to visit with friends, and you don't have to move anywhere, and then the show begins, and it's basically a package deal. So the entire experience, from stepping inside the door and feeling part of whatever show it is, in this instance with the Ark, the whole meal is a homey, hearty, feel-good meal that may have been prepared on the Ark, so it's enjoyable food, and you step in the door and you are part of the whole atmosphere. You're sitting here enjoying the set that surrounds you, and you get to feel part of that from day one. There's animal sounds going on as you're eating, and so you feel like you're right in the midst of the Ark with this production. Our next production will be in the outside of a Southern house veranda, so you'll feel like you're outside having a picnic lunch. So,
What do you see in the next, being a visionary like you are, what do you see in the next year, 2 years, 5 years, changing, growing with this?
We see a lot of growth. I just returned from the National Dinner Theater Association, and many dinner theaters are experiencing the same changing, shifting things in their business. And so it's good to have a company of people that shares the same struggles, the same concerns, the same growth as you do. And so the dinner theater industry is changing. And many people say, you opened one while others are closing. But we're the only professional dinner theater west of Lancaster, in Pennsylvania here. So we have a lot of territory that we can cover. And we have pulled people from a lot of the western area of Pennsylvania, the Pittsburgh area, into here. And I look at a lot of growth coming up. We have a long-term plan here in this facility, but then also looking at a possible expansion or a building project in the near future. When I say near future, time flies. So, several years from now is the near future. It's not anything we're looking at tomorrow, but it is something we're planning for the future that would help us cater to more and to tailor our shows to more Central Pennsylvania audiences and beyond.
And about how many people do you have in your cast?
Our casts go from 2 people. Some shows we've done have a cast of 2, all the way up to our largest cast in here. We had at Christmas was about 14 or 15 with the kids that we had in it. So, it's tighter. We have a small, intimate facility, which we're proud of. I personally like the small, intimate facility. When you come in or when you call for a reservation, you might want a front row seat, but the reality of it all is that you're going to have a front row seat wherever you're sitting in this space. You're 20 feet away from the stage. Sure. So you get to experience, you're not 100 feet away, 1,000 yards away, that you have to watch the show with binoculars or anything. You're right in the midst of the heart of it. So we boast about 60 to 72 seats here, and it's a great experience to be able to be right in the midst of the production. We just closed out a show entitled The Queen of Bingo, which was a very secular production, but yet had wonderful heart to it. In Act 1, there was a woman who was struggling with some things in life, and it was maybe derogatory a little bit, but then Act 2 showed redemption and restoration and a change of heart. So if you only paid attention to Act 1, you would have been like, why did you produce that show? But then in Act 2, you see the follow-through, and that's the goal here, where you can be part of the action. But the Queen of Bingo, it was set in a bingo hall, so the entire audience was made to feel like they were in a bingo hall. They participated in games of bingo throughout, and just like this production of the Ark, they're sitting here with animals beside them on the walls and different things, so they feel like they're right in the midst of it. And Noah even references them as the animals, so there's a lot of audience participation without the audience member feeling they have to interact at all.
Right. Last question. Do you find with the modern age of everything's technology, kids and millennials, videos and television and movies, do you find is the interest level of younger generation in live theater diminishing, or?
Coming right out of the National Dinner Theater conference last month, we talked about this, and it is we don't see a younger demographic, and that's why it's so important to grab a hold of them and allow them to experience live theater, because just being able to turn on the TV and see something is not educational. It's not going to be something that's engaging. We live in such a disconnected society, and coming to a live production, it's tangible. It's something they can see in front of them. It's real life. If you come to a story here, the story is unfolding right in front of you and you feel part of it. It's not a movie. My mom teaches sixth grade, and she just had her first or second class of students that were not alive during September 11th, and they showed a documentary on it, and the students thought it was a movie. And so that's what we're living in. We're living in an area where everything is a movie, everything is a video game, everything is on your cell phone in front of your face, and we're not encouraging the younger generations to engage. And I think this kind of experience, especially in our intimate setting, forces them to engage, forces them to participate and to share with one another. And then when you leave, you have something to talk about instead of just watching something on the screen.
Sure. After my discussion with Drew, I had the honor to sit down and chat with the cast of The Ark. Here's what they had to say about the dinner theater experience from their perspective. So what do you do? What's your role here?
Well, I'm actually pulling double duty. I'm both the production stage manager for the show, and I also play Ham in the show, which is kind of the prodigal of the three children.
I play Egyptus. I'm Ham's wife.
Okay.
One of Noah's sons, Ham.
Well, I am the director of the Ark, and I also play Japheth.
Oh, what haven't I done here? Well, in this show, I am music director and also the pit of one. So doing piano for this one.
So tell me your experience with the dinner theater environment. How do you see that different? Have you done stage theater as opposed to this?
I've been working in the theater business for about 20 years.
Okay.
The thing I love the most about is the intimate setting. The fact that the audience is right there. There's nowhere to hide, really. So your performance has to be completely honest because they can see everything that happens.
Well, you can see this is an intimate space here, for example, and the audience is sitting right there. They're just feet away from you. And it also makes it easy to interact when you have a show that involves some interaction, which the Ark does, by the by. But usually I think that happens in a dinner theater situation. It seems a little more intimate and smaller. But I've also had the good fortune of touring nationally with several shows and been able to play houses that hold like 5,000 people. And sometimes it's almost too cold. You just don't know who's there and how far back they are, that kind of thing.
Good question. I suppose it's the ability to maybe do a small gesture, a small nuance where it might be lost in a bigger venue.
Well, of course, I do echo my castmates' sentiments that the space being intimate really gives you much more of a feel of what the audience is giving back to you. And we thrive on that. Anytime the audience is laughing or crying, enjoying themselves, you feel that energy that much more because of the close proximity. So, and I love that. That's a lot of fun.
I find the dinner theater atmosphere is maybe a little more relaxed in the fact that people are there, they're there for so long because they're there to eat and then get entertained. Whereas if you're doing just a theater, straight theater show, the people come in with just that in mind and often make a night of it. I mean, sometimes it's maybe a little bigger deal, I guess. I hate to say it that way, but they come in and are a little more relaxed, and so hence sometimes the dinner theater atmosphere's audiences are a little easier entertained because they've been there for a while and they're really ready for it. And, you know, they've had a good meal and then they're ready to sit and just kind of then relax and enjoy.
From your perspective, being the pit person,
Yes.
what's it like doing that in a dinner theater environment?
Absolutely delightful. It is so much fun. I'll admit it, it's fun to have full control of the pit. I don't have to follow a conductor. I can pick my tempos. I can nuance it if I must, depending on each singer's strengths and mode of expression. And I find that just ever so fascinating.
What is it like to direct a program in a dinner theater environment versus a stage theatrical environment that you may have directed?
I don't think there's a whole lot of difference in the directing aspect. It has to do more with the size of the house, the size of the stage. This is a relatively small theater, and so there's the challenges of, even though there's only a cast of 8, when all 8 of us are on stage, I have to say, okay, I'm a picture person, so I need to see if this picture works here, if this picture works. And there's only so many exits and entrances you can do in a small space. So that's more of the challenge. It really just depends more on the stage than it does the dinner theater versus regular theater atmosphere.
So someone who's consider coming to a show, they're debating it, the cost, as Drew was mentioning, the cost or the drive. What would you say to encourage someone that they need to give this a shot?
Well, it's a completely different experience for the same reason that I just mentioned that I love it. I think the audience would love it. The fact that you can see and touch it, and there's nothing like it. Even a film, sure, I mean, there are some musical films, but, you know, there's just nothing like live theater, in my opinion. Your chances of getting swept into the story are greater because you're in the environment. Whereas you go to see something on a big screen, it's 25 feet away, depending on where you sit. And most of these people that you read about in magazines and see on Entertainment Tonight and all of that kind of stuff, they're larger than life, whereas these people you feel like you can actually see and touch. Cool. And so to me, it's a more immersive experience because you're right there with them.
It's a beautiful piece. It really is. The story's wonderful. Everyone knows of Noah's Ark, but the story is really a wonderful story. Great music. I was not familiar with it before learning the show. I love the music.
I think that this particular show is going to really pull you in as far as an escape, as far as entertainment. The set designers have done such a fabulous job trying to make this look authentic as well as the costumer. And it's gonna, you're gonna be laughing and crying. It's one of those shows, and it's so well written, and the music is so well done. So as far as entertainment, it's high up there on the list.
All right, anything you want to add?
No, I just hope that hope you have a chance to come see the show, and that we can bring in lots of audience members over the next month, and that they leave happy and fulfilled.
Cool.
I just say try it. Most people are, the price or the, distance or the timing's not right, and I don't want to come by myself. It's an experience that you will not forget. We have people that come here, they're seated at a table with people they don't know, and now they're calling back to have reservations to come back with those people that they met that they don't know, and it's a great experience for those that aren't sure that they want to come out by themselves or just in a small group. And it's great for larger groups too. We have a lot of larger groups that come in and celebrate birthdays, anniversaries, or just, a fun family night out. And so it's an experience for the whole family. And this particular show is a great show to introduce your children to live theater as well. It's so much different than just going to the movie theater. And in the grand scheme of things, it's about the same cost anymore. So you get a good meal, you get a great show, and you have a memory made instead of just going to a theater and saying, oh, that's something we do all the time. This is something that someone will remember for the rest of their life.
The show's running until April 30th. We've got 4 more weeks of it, and I love it. It's a great cast. It's a great company, and their food's awesome too. So, I feel like you're getting a really great family-friendly experience on top of a great dining experience.
That's it. Other than come see the show.
Thank you for taking the time to watch Joy in the City today. We will return with the conclusion of this story and some clips from this show after these messages.
How many of you know that if you're going to be an overcomer today, you're going to have to testify of what God's Word says about you and stop testifying what you feel?
Expect this. Let expectancy rise in you and decree this. Bind delay and receive a new season. Bind delay and receive a new season. Welcome the King and His presence among you at greater levels. Seek it, pursue it, embrace it.
The Bible says that as He is, so are we in this world. And I just want people to be inspired to lay hands on their family members, on strangers, on any and everyone, to see the power of God in healing specifically spread across their neighborhoods, their homes, schools, around the world, because that's what God called us to do.
Draw near to the one who draws near to you. He's a resting place. He's a comforter, and I discovered that the word comfort means not just to make feel better, but to come and fortify.
If you know of an organization or person having an impact in our community, we want to hear about it. Please email us at stories@jointhecity.org. Now, back to our story.
I had a very enjoyable afternoon talking with the cast of The Ark. Rather than tell you more about them, I figured it's time to show you what they are all about.
My way, and now I know why the raven never came home. Man, will they obey? Only one way to find out. Sit. Stay. Wow.
You can stretch your rein for quite a while, double it up. You have to look your best, kick your butt. It starts with how you're dressed to the strut. When you walked through the door of my heart, I was sure that you hold on. I'm feeling trapped inside a never-ending night. And I've forgotten how it feels to feel the light.
Lisa! What are you doing?
Don't bother me, I'm eating.
Eliza, you're not really going...
Why not?
Father, I approach thee humbly now.
Noah, honey, don't go near them. I'm not sure that they've been saved.
It's our lucky day, yeah, one just came true.
The Ark is now playing through April 30th. If you are interested in ticket information, you can visit their website at www.ironbridgetheater.com or call them at 814-505-2551. True stories are the foundation of why this television program exists. If you would like to share your story with us, simply email us at mystory@jointhecity.org and our team will follow up with you soon. That's all the time we have today. Be sure to watch Join the City Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. Be encouraged because God is moving in our city.
God is on the move.